Thank you for joining us here on 10 Tampa Bay. Right now, President Biden is in St. Pete Beach. He will soon be giving some remarks following Hurricane Milton, and he's been planning to come here. We found out this weekend, yesterday, that he was planning to make the trip here. He landed in Air Force One on MacDill Air Force Base at around 9:45 this morning. When he landed, he was greeted, of course, by Florida Representative Kathy Castor, Tampa Mayor Jane Castor, St. Petersburg Mayor Ken Welch, Gwen Myers from the Hillsborough County Commission, and Alan Clendenin from the City Council, several commanders from MacDill Air Force Base as well. There you are seeing video of President Biden coming off of Air Force One. He landed about 9:45. He was able to come off the plane just before 10 a.m. And there you see him greeting a lot of our local city leaders who have been dealing with so much in just the last couple of weeks. Biden then, after being at MacDill Air Force Base and landing there, the president then went up into some helicopters to see aerial views of all of the damage across the Bay Area, flying mainly over Pinellas County, just getting a view of what the destruction and damage looks like after two back-to-back hurricanes, Helene and then Milton. And then he landed at Albert Whitted Airport and is on his way to St. Pete Beach, where he will talk. He's been talking with first responders there and meeting with them, talking to some homeowners and residents. And we see a lot of the local city leaders all coming up and preparing, of course, to listen to President Biden's remarks when he comes up. Now, we are also expecting, we've read some other statements from the White House saying he is expected to announce some projects for the Southeast U.S. that could be some hardening projects and help lead to faster restoration after things like hurricanes and these extreme weather events that we've been having. So we'll be waiting to see what type of announcement he has for Florida when he does come up here. But Biden came here, President Biden, to talk to the first responders, to talk to the city leaders and talk to them about how he can help and how the government can put FEMA on the ground and help the residents recover. Mike Prangley, you're here with me, and we want to talk about these two while we wait for President Biden to come up. Mike, we've had two historic hurricanes hit the Tampa Bay area. Let's talk about Helene and then Milton and the types of damage that both of them caused.
Wow. I mean, where do we begin? I mean, we got Helene with that landfall here officially September 26th, okay, toward the Big Bend, and of course Steinhatchee. That's just a story in itself. And then you had your second landfall October 9th. So that's two hurricanes in less than 2 weeks. And of course, these were hurricanes that brought conditions many of us here in Florida have never seen. So we take a look, and we'll start at one storm at a time. The record surge levels, that's what Helene will be known for. Water, big walls of water we have not seen in parts of Tampa really ever in many spots, okay? And really something we haven't seen since the 1921 hurricane. And keep in mind this, Helene stayed about 112 miles to the northwest, or the west offshore. So that tells you how vulnerable we are here on the west coast. Now we take a look at the surge levels. Clear water at 6.6 feet. What sticks out to you here is, we're talking about breaking the old time records by 2 and 3 feet. It's just unheard of, unprecedented. And then on top of that, you had the crashing waves that did so much destruction. So it was just heartbreaking, and it affected all of us. I mean, Helene, we had family members, friends, and just unbelievable stories in itself. And then, of course, we were checking the meteorological data, and it's just, for meteorologists, we hadn't seen anything like it. I mean, looking at this buoy data that was located just 112 nautical miles off of Tampa, think about this. We had 25 to 35 foot wave heights, 107 mile per hour surface winds, and all of that water was just pushing toward the west coast of Florida because it made landfall in the Big Bend. So they always say the dirty side, or that right side of the hurricane, is the worst side. And we found out, and the hard way to find out in a big way. Now we take a look at some more of that buoy data, and then if that wasn't enough, of course, we had Milton, and it was like a nightmare all over again. And Milton was one for the history books. Okay, less than 2 weeks later, Milton unfortunately made a beeline for the Tampa Bay area. It wasn't going to the north of us, so something we haven't seen, really a direct landfall in, yes, the Sarasota, Bradenton area, just right in that area. We would usually consider that part of Tampa Bay. So we hadn't seen anything like that in over 100 years. And Milton ranked 5th on the all-time list for the most intense hurricanes for lowest pressure. So when you're in company like Wilma, Gilbert, Labor Day hurricane of 35, Rita, and Allen, that's quite a list. And of course, we were just trying to pick up the pieces and catch a breath here at home. And then we had some amazing numbers just keep coming in, and we're just trying to keep people safe the best we could. If we did catch a break, it is that this storm wobbled a couple times to the south. It wobbled just enough to the south. We said every mile mattered, so that wobble helped most of Tampa Bay as far as the storm surge levels go, because we know the biggest killer of these storms is storm surge. But unfortunately, of course, we've got a big area. Unfortunately, it was bad news for our friends in Venice, Fort Myers, and Naples, where they saw the 5 to 7 foot surge. So it's going to take some time for our friends to pick up the pieces there, especially to the south of Tampa Bay. And of course, we're checking on them each and every day until they get back on their feet. As far as the impact, we had the surge to the south, and then the rain that we have not seen. 5.09 inches of rain in an hour. Okay, so just incredible. That was at Albert Woodard Airport in St. Pete. So the airport I like parking to at, and I take my little runs, and I get to go to the pier and get my fish sandwich and my grouper sandwich. But imagine 5.09 inches of rain in 1 hour, 24-hour rainfall over 17 inches, and a chance of that happening is like a 1 in 500 year event. So where was all that water going to go? It had nowhere to go anyway. We just got over Helene, and it just was not, just not a good recipe. So folks said they saw retention ponds become lakes and waterfront property. They couldn't even get in or out of their neighborhood here, Jenny. So it just was one thing after another. And then, of course, we had the high wind gusts that we will never forget, that screeching jet plane sound with 105 mile per hour gusts out toward the Skyway Fishing Pier and Egmont Channel.
Wow, incredible damage that we've seen, and still seeing flooding, of course, from Hurricane Milton, as a lot of our rivers are still to crest yet. So we do have our Emerald Morrow, Tampa Bay's Emerald Morrow, out in St. Pete Beach right now. And Emerald, you've been following this. You've been at St. Pete Beach since early this morning. Plus, you've been out there throughout the entire both of these hurricanes. So very well versed in the damage that it's caused. What are we expecting to hear from President Biden today?
Well, Jenny, we are expecting to hear the president talk about exactly what type of federal resources might be available to the community as they recover from Hurricane Milton. And I can say that we do have St. Petersburg Mayor Ken Welch here. I also see St. Pete Beach Mayor Adrian Petrilla here. And one of the things that I think is so important to talk about, specifically being here in St. Pete Beach, is this area is still without water. This area is still without sewage. And the sewage issues have been ongoing in St. Pete Beach, and it's something that we've been talking about for years, the sewage overflows. One of the things that Mayor Petrilla recently posted is that these could be ongoing for a little bit longer, and I think the president is walking up, so I'm going to step out of the way so that we can take this live. Back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Emerald. Of course, the person we haven't seen there, as we're watching the president walk up to the podium, we have not seen Governor DeSantis there, although the president did say he had been in contact with Governor DeSantis prior to Hurricane Milton making landfall, and that the governor was cooperative and taking his call, and did seem to say that, and Biden even saying DeSantis is doing a great job. So as President Biden walks up to the podium, of course, we're waiting to hear the remarks and the people that he's talked to. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Hello, folks. Just met a number of the homeowners who wiped out, and everything from the Coast Guard to the fire department. It's a hell of a deal. I'm here in Florida for the second time in 2 weeks, and to survey the damage from another catastrophic storm, Hurricane Milton. Thankfully, the storm's impact was not as cataclysmic as we'd predicted, but on top of two before it, just seemed to getting worse. And but for some individuals, it was cataclysmic. All those folks who not only lost their homes, but more importantly, those folks who lost their lives, lost family members, lost all their personal belongings. Entire neighborhoods were flooded, and millions were without power. Early this morning, I did an aerial tour of St. Petersburg and the battered coastline. I flew over Tropicana Field and with the Tampa Bay raised play, and the roof is almost completely off, but thank God not many people were injured. I spoke with first responders who've been working around the clock. I also met with small business owners here and homeowners who have taken a real beating these back-to-back storms. And they're heartbroken and exhausted, and their expenses are piling up. But I know from experience how devastating it is to lose your home. Several years ago, my home was struck by lightning. It didn't all burn down, but I was out of the home for 7 months while it was being repaired. The thing I was most concerned about was not just the home, was all those things, all those pictures I saved that my daughter had drawn when she was little, all the family photographs, all the albums, all the things that really matter. Folks, the fact is that when you lose your wedding ring and the old photos, your children, family keepsakes, things that can't be replaced. But sometimes, in my own experience, that's the part that hurts the most. And I'm standing next to the mayor of Peach Beach and the chairwoman, Peters. Both their homes were damaged in Hurricane Milton. The mayor's home flooded, family vehicles washed away. County chair's home had experienced significant damage in the past two storms previous. Just finished rebuilding and settling back in. Now they have to do it all over again. Both their families lost precious personal belongings, but they've stepped up, not only to look out for themselves, but to help other families, help their neighbors. You know, that's the resilience of the people of West Florida. I want to thank them and all the public officials who've suffered consequential losses because of the storm, but who are out there doing things to help other people who had serious losses. It matters. The American people should know the sacrifices they're making. You know, they've been steadfast partners as well. We've been in frequent contact. And it's in moments like this we come together to take care of each other, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans. Americans who need help, and Americans who will help you if you were in the same situation. We are one United States, one United States. I also came here to talk about all the progress we have made together. This is a whole of government effort, from state and local to FEMA to U.S. Coast Guard, Army Corps of Engineers, the Energy Department, Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Defense, just to name a few. FEMA has delivered 1.2 million meals, over 300,000 liters of water, 2 million gallons of fuel, and so far we've installed 100 satellite terminals to restore communications in impacted areas so families can contact their loved ones to be sure everything's okay and be able to reach out for help as well. Speaking of help, so far we've opened 10 disaster recovery centers in Florida with more to come so people can have one stop to meet with officials, get the federal help they're entitled to that's available to them. Such a direct, immediate financial aid of no interest payment loans, mortgage relief, and so much more. You can also go online to disasterassistance.gov, disasterassistance.gov, or call 1-800-621-FEMA, F-E-M-A. Yesterday, after I signed the Major Disaster Declaration, more than 250,000 Floridians registered for help. 250,000, the most in a single day ever in the history of this country. 250,000. I know you're concerned about the debris removal, and it's obvious why. We're prioritizing debris removal and working with the state and local partners to clear roads, to get wreckage of the two hurricanes off properties, and so more folks can return home and businesses can receive much needed deliveries of food, fuel, medicine, and other essentials. That's a priority for me. Power has also been restored to over 2 million people in a matter of days. And thanks to tens of thousands of power workers from 43 states and Canada working nonstop, even more people will have more power restored soon. Today, I'm proud to announce $612 million to 6 new cutting-edge projects to support communities impacted by Hurricane Helene and Milton. That includes $47 million for Gainesville Regional Utilities and another $47 million for Florida Power and Light. This funding will not only restore power, but will make the region's power system stronger and more capable and reduce the frequency and duration of power outages while extreme weather events become more frequent. In fact, we've been able to restore power quicker because of critical infrastructure investments were made both when I was vice president and president to harden the grid. For folks at home, the grid means the electrical power system that transmits energy from where it's produced on the power plant to where it's used in homes and businesses. We've been hardening the grid, like burying transmission lines underground, replacing wood power poles with concrete or composite poles so they don't snap in the wind. Energy Secretary Granholm is here with me today leading this effort, and she'll tell you more about it and other cutting-edge technologies in the grid in a moment. But let me close with this. I'm here to personally say thank you to the brave first responders, and I don't want to underestimate that. Brave first responders, men and women in uniform, utility workers. Look at the number that showed up from around the country, from Canada, California, Nebraska, all over the country to come here to help. Men and women in uniform, as I said, healthcare personnel, neighbors helping neighbors, and so many more people. This is all a team effort, folks. We made a big difference, and it's saved lives. But there's much more to do, and we're going to do everything we can to get power back in your homes, not only helping you recover, but to help you build back stronger. God bless you all. May God protect our first responders, protect our troops. Now I'm going to turn this over to Secretary Granholm. Madam Secretary?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to echo the President's thanks to all the first responders and to the utility crews from across the continent who have been stepping forward to help in our time of need here and in the other affected states. DOE, the Department of Energy, continues to work with the utility sector to make sure you have what you need. I'm pleased to say that about 75% of the power has been restored across Florida, and most believing that by the end of Tuesday, the vast majority will be online. The unprecedented intensity of the damage and the disruptions overwhelmingly underscore the actions that the Biden-Harris administration really has taken to harden the grid against extreme weather. These include the new investments that the President just announced for the Southeast. When we took office, we knew the grids across the country had been suffering from decades of underinvestment. There was a dire need for repairs and upgrades and expansions. So the Biden-Harris team secured unprecedented funding in the bipartisan infrastructure law to begin modernizing these systems. Before the President's announcement today, since the passage of that bipartisan infrastructure law, the Department of Energy, anyway, has allocated roughly $680 million to grid resilience projects just in the states that have been affected by Hurricanes Milton and Helene. That amount roughly doubles when you include matching investments from states and utilities. And several of these projects are already underway. For example, undergrounding the power lines, super important, raising substations in the face of flooding, installing technology on the grid that can identify blackouts before they happen and can shorten them when they do happen. Technology that increases transmission capacity so that power can move where and when it's needed most. These are all the upgrades that will be funding. So the announcement of the additional $612 million that the President made today will mean that we will have seen $2.5 billion worth of investment in these regions, in these states, to make the grid more resilient. A combined investment from the Department of Energy, states, and private utilities. And these partnerships are critical to making these projects successful and to bringing resilience to families and businesses across the Southeast. These investments obviously are not going to prevent the next storm, but they certainly will make sure that in the coming years we can respond and recover from these storms more quickly. So to the people of Florida, as the President has said, we will be here for you as long as it takes. So thank you. And with that, I'd like to bring up St. Pete Mayor Petrilla.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. President, we want to thank you for coming here today to see the devastation and the destruction with your own eyes. And we thank you for your support during this difficult and historic time. Like so many of my neighbors, my family and I, we felt the full force first of Hurricane Helene and then of also Hurricane Milton. After the floodwaters of Helene hit, we thought we could begin to recover, patching up windows, cleaning up debris, and trying to get back to something resembling normalcy. And just as we finally began to find our footing, here comes Milton. And with it, another wave of devastation. You can see it everywhere. Our roofs were torn up, our trees were pulled up, our homes were destroyed, and like so many in our town, my wife and I, we thought, we're concerned about our safety. We're concerned about the future of our town. I have walked these streets, I've seen the destruction, I've sat with families who've lost so much, and I've seen businesses struggling to reopen. I have firsthand felt the emotional and economic toll that these storms have taken on all of us. But one thing remains true. We are Americans. We have been beaten, we have been battered, but we will not be broken. We are resilient, and we will rebuild. That said, we cannot do this without the incredible support of FEMA, our state, our county, our first responders, and your administration, Mr. President. The resources that you have helped provide for us have been a lifeline to my family and to our community, to our neighbors. And on behalf of all of St. Pete Beach, you have our sincerest gratitude. Yet we know that the road to recovery is long. And today I'm asking for your continued support to help bridge the gap between where we are today and where we want to be, where we need to be in the future. We need help to rebuild our infrastructure, revive our businesses, and provide critical assistance to the families who are still picking up the pieces of their lives. The urgent needs are clear. We need economic relief, we need continued federal resources, and we need a path forward to ensure that our community and all other communities, all other cities who were devastated just like this town, can emerge stronger than ever before. Together, with your support, Mr. President, we can and will rebuild. Thank you for standing with us. Chairman Peters?
It's very good to be here, and I love to see all our first responders. You've done an outstanding job. I'm Commissioner Kathleen Peters with Pinellas County, and I can tell you that the county is working diligently to get our water running, to get our sewer systems back up and running, and we're with Duke Energy following them along to cut down the trees to make sure that they can get our power grid up and running in a collaborative effort. We've worked diligently and closely with the state, and I cannot thank our governor and our state officials enough. They have done an amazing job to help us with removal of debris, with bringing resources in to get the port open so we can get gasoline and get all of our businesses up and running. I've spoken with the president and his staff, and they are working tirelessly to send assistance, and I am very, very grateful to the way the president has responded. I think he has done an outstanding job in this situation, and I am truly, truly grateful. I'm hopeful. I sent a letter to the state, which will then go to the White House, asking for just at a minimum, there's quite a few things we asked for, but at a minimum to merge the two storms. Can you imagine if we had to separate our debris? This is Helene debris and this is Milton debris. There's just no possible way that we would be able to do that effectively and efficiently. And by merging the two storms into one disaster will help expedite a lot of red tape to make this much quicker a recovery. So I'm looking forward to that announcement that will happen. The ones I want to thank the most are my neighbors, my first responders. Neighbors have been helping neighbors. As the president mentioned, I too had 4 feet of water in my home, and I lost all my personal things and my clothes and my memories. But what has been outstanding is every neighbor helping other neighbors. The kindness that has poured into this community has been amazing and overwhelming. It makes us so proud to be American. American has always been strong, and this is just an example of the resilience and the strength of every one of our residents in our community. And I am so eternally grateful for every one of my neighbors, every one of my police officers and fire and EMS personnel. My son was in the water rescuing people at night during Helene, and he was also in the water rescuing people out of the apartment buildings in Clearwater. I cannot thank our first responders enough. This is a storm we'll never forget, but it's what's going to make us so much stronger and better. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, all of you that have been working with me to meet with the president and to make our community safe again. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much. You're wonderful. Without a no. Thank you for coming.
And you've just heard President Biden making remarks after taking an aerial tour of the damage over St. Petersburg and St. Pete Beach from both Hurricanes Helene and Milton. President saying that they flew over Tropicana Field and saw the roof completely torn off, and then flew over St. Pete Beach and saw the devastation and the disasters. He recognized that everyone, families, first responders, small business owners, everyone is exhausted and the expenses are piling up. He wanted to be there personally to thank first responders, so he did get to thank a few of them, talk to county and city leaders, many of them who also had damage due to both of these hurricanes. The president did announce more than $600 million in projects for the entire Southeast to harden up the grid and do some restoration work. 2 projects he's mentioning directly for Florida. They're each $47 million for Gainesville Regional Utilities and Florida Power and Light. They'll use that to help mitigate the effects of increasingly extreme weather in Florida and do storm hardening, as well as faster restoration through deployment of some self-healing devices and some new technology that they're talking about. We heard from the Department of Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm as well, talking a little bit more about that. The president went on to say that he sees other people, our neighbors, helping neighbors, first responders, helping everyone. And he was heartened by the fact that everyone came together, not as Democrats, not as Republicans, but as Americans. They came together because we are one United States. He said that we've had line workers here from 43 states, including Canada, down here to help. FEMA has given 1.2 million meals out already, 2 million gallons of fuel, a lot of water as well. They've also installed satellite terminals to help with communication. But he said it's working together with the state, with the local governments that have really made the difference. It's everyone working together to try and bring us back to normal. I think it was interesting. We did get to hear from St. Pete Beach Mayor Adrian Petrilla. He also talked about together we can and we will rebuild, and was grateful for the president to come to St. Pete Beach to see the damage firsthand and to see what the families are dealing with. St. Pete Beach mayor also had some flooding in his home. And an interesting thing I want to make sure I mention before we go, we heard from Pinellas County Commission Chair Kathleen Peters. Also had 4 feet of water in her home, but she has sent a letter to the state, which she is hoping to get forwarded to the White House. She is hoping to get these two storms merged into one disaster, because according to her, that can really free up some red tape and really make it easier for people to make these claims. Because the president even said when they opened up Milton on the FEMA website yesterday so people could start making claims, they had 250,000 Floridians already register in one day. That is a record for one day. And that was just for Milton. And according to Commission Chair Kathleen Peters, if they merged these two storms into one disaster, it would help everyone be able to get the help that they need much quicker. Because, you know, she was saying they have two piles of debris, but they don't know how to separate the debris from Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. We just have debris that we want to get rid of. So that is something I'm sure we'll be hearing more about in the days to come, as that is something that gets proposed to the state and then pushed up to the federal government that would certainly, hopefully, help rush more funding and get rid of some of the red tape so that people here in our community will start to see that money, that funding, that help that they so need to rebuild. Of course, we'll have complete coverage of President Biden's speech today in St. Pete Beach coming up. This will be on our OTT, where you're watching right now. You will be able to see a newscast at 6:30. Let me just double check with my producer. Is that correct? 6:30. Come back to this space. We'll have complete coverage. We'll also have coverage live at 11 o'clock on 10 Tampa Bay of all of the events that happened today. And of course, all of the rescues and the flooding that we're still seeing across the Tampa Bay area, because rivers are still rising and we still are under a weather impact alert due to a lot of the rivers rising and people still needing to be rescued and getting out of neighborhoods where they can't because the water's too high or there's a sinkhole. So 10 Tampa Bay is here with you through all of this, and we will be back with you again at 6 o'clock tonight and at this same spot, and then at 11 o'clock tonight on 10 Tampa Bay on TV, where you watch your regular newscast. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, we're going to continue to cover this at 10tampabay.com and on our free 10 Tampa Bay app.